Talk 1470. WNN.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Welcome to the People's Advocate Hour with South Florida Attorney Joseph Bryan. Listen for the next hour as Attorney Joseph Bryan informs you on different legal topics. Whether you are considering bankruptcy or dealing with mortgage or debt issues, Joe can help you. Knowledge is power. Don't fear the unknown. Get answers to your burning legal questions now. So call in and ask Attorney Joseph Bryan to answer your questions. 888-565-1470. And now, here's Attorney Joseph Bryan.
Good day, and thanks for being here to the People's Advocate Hour. I'm sitting here, this is Joseph Bryan, and I'm sitting here today with
Attorney Lawrence Malis.
And she's here to talk to you about tax issues and some interesting things that have come across the news today. Before we even get started here today, I understand something interesting happened in the news. What happened?
That's right, Joe. Well, we've had a couple interesting updates in the tax world this week, but one of the ones that came across my desk this week was the Credit Suisse pleading guilty to conspiracy for hiding taxpayers' names with offshore accounts.
Numbered accounts are no longer a good thing.
Yeah, so it's a pretty big deal. They've agreed to pay about $2.6 billion under the plea agreement.
$2.6 billion. You know, it seems like a lot of money. How much are they worth?
Oh, about $36 billion.
$36 billion? So they're getting 10% of their worth? Ouch. I guess these guys who have been naughty for so long are getting punished because they're hiding your money.
That's right.
But did they give up the names?
Part of the plea agreement is that they are going to start giving out some of the names of the clients, which is a big deal for some people, especially in light of all the offshore account issues that are going on right now.
So, not that I am, because I'm personally, not offshore. It's in my pocket, actually, but I'm not offshore for sure. Talking about the dollars in my pocket. That's what we got here today. But I don't have offshore accounts, and I don't have offshore interests, and I'm not hiding money in Switzerland. I've never been to Switzerland, so I have never been there. I couldn't have opened up an account there. Well, I guess maybe I could, because that's what other people did. So these people are sitting over there with their accounts, and they know that the death knell of IRS is on them. Do you know what I mean by the death knell?
Mm-hmm.
What do I mean?
It's not a good thing.
Because when they come a knocking, you got to be talking. Talking to you, right?
That's right.
They
That's right. Talk to your attorney.
Right.
Don't talk to the IRS.
All right. So let's pretend Joe Money, because I'm Joe Lawyer. We're talking about another guy. Joe Money has a whole bunch of money over there in Switzerland, and he thought that $28 million sitting over there was a good thing. And he thought he had tax avoidance down to a key, but it turns out to be tax evasion,
which is not a good thing.
Now, listen, okay, you seem like a really nice girl. I mean, and I probably would enjoy sitting across the table asking you questions. But is there anything you can do to poor Joe Money right now with that money sitting out there? I'm 6-7 years a bad boy. What can you do for me at this point in time? Is there anything? I'm just dead, eat crow, get the handcuffs. Do you know what they call handcuffs in Spanish?
What's that?
Esposas. Do you know what a wife is? It's an esposa. So 2 wives is handcuffs. One wife at a time, guys.
Well, luckily it's illegal to have more than one.
That's true.
Wife,
it's also illegal to hide your money in Switzerland.
It is.
What can you do for a guy like Joe Money?
Well, there are some options for Joe Money.
Other than to hang himself?
Other than to hang himself, that's not recommended. No, Joe can do a couple of things. He can go through what is called the Offshore Voluntary Disclosure Program.
Ooh, which sounds so wordy.
I know.
What
OVDP, for short.
And what do we do with that?
Well, essentially, taxpayers can come forward to the IRS and disclose the accounts that they have offshore. And essentially, they will be able to, hopefully, if they're accepted in the program and all goes well, avoid criminal prosecution. Unfortunately, the civil penalties, it's pretty tough to get around those.
What kind of penalties are we talking about?
We're talking up to $27.5 per account per year, which is quite hefty, if you ask me. So it can be pretty tough for people who have accounts offshore and didn't realize that they had this reporting obligation or this tax obligation.
Civil penalties can be a lot.
Oh, yes. There's actually a case that just came down this week where a Coral Gables, so someone right from our backyard.
Don't call them by their name because they're already embarrassed.
Of course. Oh, unfortunately, his name is everywhere. The article was on Forbes today, but but he was actually found to be responsible for penalties in the 3 millions for an account that had a highest account balance of only $1 million.
So he's in real trouble.
Yep, he is.
So he's going to have to come up and make a. So he's got to get. See, but hopefully he has a whole bunch of other money somewhere else.
Hopefully
Right.
they don't find that.
Right. Well, unfortunately, I think they're going to go looking.
Yeah, the IRS is really getting pretty aggressive.
Now, can Joe Money do something else, anything else than this? I mean, other than paying all these civil penalties, we're only talking about being a bad boy for 5 years. It's not like 10 or 20. How many years back can I go and redo my taxes? Can I correct my bad ways by amending it?
You can for 3 years.
But I'm still going to be in trouble. Oh, 3 years. So
Statute of limitations.
So I've got 2 years of, oh my God, poor Joe Money.
Yeah,
So he's going to spend a lot of money, but it's better to spend the money than go to jail.
that's right.
Now, do you have any idea what kind of jail terms they're looking at when they're looking at people like Joe Money with millions of dollars in this naughty behavior?
The terms can be pretty extended. I'm not sure exactly how long this particular gentleman is potentially going to jail. I don't know if he's going to at all. I just know right now he has civil penalties, but
Civil penalties, which are big.
they are. They
Real
are.
big.
Mhm.
Bigger than you want.
Exactly.
Bigger than I want. So we're looking at civil penalties. We're looking at so there's options for somebody who's been a bad boy.
There are, or a bad girl. There's some.
Oh, there's no such thing as bad girls.
There's some wealthy older ladies out there that might be hiding a little bit of money.
Or better yet, it was their ex-husband's fault.
Oh, that's
It's always the husband's fault.
That's a whole other issue, and that's a whole other topic. Innocent spouse relief is a big thing.
Yeah, well, I know about one innocent spouse that didn't get any relief.
Oh no.
I was filing a bankruptcy for a client of mine, and you remember we talked about taxes being in a box. Mm-hmm. That if it's over 3 years old, and then there's a 2-year rule, and then there's a couple other rules, and if it fits inside that box, when I file for bankruptcy, I can wipe out that debt.
Yep.
And even though it's considered a priority non-dischargeable debt, in most cases, if it fits inside the box, you can discharge it. Well, this guy here had $400,000 and more in tax obligations.
Yikes.
And of course, it was a joint filing because he was still married to his wonderful wife at the time. And now she's not such a wonderful wife because she's the ex-wife, but she tried to get the innocent spouse petition, and the IRS said no.
Really?
Well, I think the logic is that when the taxes were filed, they were jointly married, living in happiness, like most marriages, and that the taxes were filed jointly because she benefited from the fact that he had the business and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So then subsequently they get divorced, and she's saying, well, it was his business, I shouldn't be responsible. I think the IRS didn't feel that she was so innocent.
Yeah.
I personally think she's very innocent, and they should have given it to her, but they did not. And of course, being that she's the client's ex, I won't say that he snickered at all or laughed at the idea that he was walking away and she was stuck with $440,000 with tax liability.
Yikes.
You know what she should have done?
What's that?
She should have had a better divorce attorney. That, or she should have sat down with somebody that does debts, because quite candidly, she could have negotiated that in her family law contract, couldn't she?
She could have.
That MSA could have said he had to indemnify her and hold her harmless and cover the expense of those of that tax liability, and as part of the divorce, and he couldn't have been able to bankrupt it because he would have been liable to her. But she didn't. See, that's why it's important to get a good attorney, because there's a lot of attorneys out there, their agendas sometimes are driven by trying to get the client. Sometimes they're not spending enough time thinking about the client's best interest. That's why it's good to get a good attorney. Would you consider yourself a good attorney?
I would.
I found out today that you are an attorney that is a very nice attorney. Did you know why?
Why is that?
Because I found out that you're doing a pro bono case.
That's right.
You are. You're doing a small little probate case for what organization are you working with?
I'm working with the Miami-Dade Legal Aid. They have a probate division that handles probate cases for low-income taxpayers in Dade County.
But you're such a busy girl.
Yeah, you have to give back to your community.
You really mean that, don't you?
I do. I really do. I think it's important as attorneys to help people who, A, would probably never even think of approaching an attorney or ever think they could afford an attorney. And, it's just a couple $1,000s that they just want to get from their family. And, it's just nice to help.
Great. Listen, if you want to give us a call, our number here today is 888-565-1470, or you can watch us on live stream at WNN1470.com. If you want to call into our offices and make an appointment to come see us, our phone numbers are 954-320-6940, or you can always look at us at thepeoplesadvocate.com. Right now, we're going to take a break and give a few moments here to drink some water and discuss the next step of our show today. Thank you very much.
Are you losing sleep at night due to your debt situation? Call attorney Joseph Bryan today to sit down for a free consultation to discuss your rights. The People's Advocate is the trade name of the Bryan Law Group. The People's Advocate provides services to individuals and small businesses in bankruptcy, foreclosure, short sales, loan modifications, debt relief, consumer law, and estate planning in the South Florida area. Your initial consultation is free of charge. Proudly serving the South Florida community for over 21 years, Attorney Joseph Bryan will listen to your concerns and discuss options available to you. For more information, please call the People's Advocate at 888-828-9008. That's 888-828-9008. You are listening to the People's Advocate Hour with South Florida attorney Joseph Bryan. He keeps you informed about your rights when it comes to bankruptcy or foreclosure and wants you to be part of his show. Call 888-565-1470 and help him help you get informed. Now, back to our show.
Thank you. This is the People's Advocate Hour. And just want to draw attention to you all that we give free consultations, and the purpose of the free consultation is so that you can discuss your legal matter with a competent professional, with the confidence that you know that the information is confidential, and you'll get a free consultation so that you can come up with an answer, a strategy, a possible solution. Sometimes we're the ones to help, sometimes we have friends that can help. But we're the People's Advocate. The key is to make sure that you get informed, because information is knowledge, and knowledge is power, and with power, you're empowered. And I know that sounds really funny, and I hope you got you laughing on that one. Definitely not a poet here. So back to the one that might be a poet, Lawrence Malis. I understand that you've been doing some short sales in the office. What's that all about?
That's right. So we've been working with a lot of clients who are currently in foreclosure, and one of the things that we recommend a lot, as a way to wrap everything up for them is the short sale. And I know there's a lot of benefits to short sales.
Yes, and also my understanding with the short sale, it's a good end game.
It is.
And one of the things that you can also get when you do a short sale is a what do you call it, a deficiency waiver. Mm-hmm. It's kind of interesting. I read them all the time, and the language I like is the one where they say that the lender waives its right to go after the deficiency.
That is a good thing.
To institute any actions against the borrower in the future. That can be construed as a forgiveness or debt, or it can be ignored, because they're not saying that they're forgiving the debt, they're just saying that they're not going to pursue
the
deficiencies, and they're waiving their right to pursue the deficiency. So that doesn't mean that they are forgiving the debt. They're just not going to have the right to go forward. It's a very interesting language that they come up with in order for them to accomplish things that they want to have happen in the marketplace. You know, quite often you'll find a person who's tried and tried again for a loan modification. I've seen people try 3-4 times, be turned down. And I've seen that on the 4th try, all of a sudden, a loan modification comes through, and it shocks me, because it's like, why didn't they do it the first time?
Yeah.
Nothing's really changed. You know, why didn't you do it? It just seems to be that they develop programs, or they do things off the hip with some of these organizations. What it really turns out to be is that there's a group of investors out there, and each group of investors has their own little rules and procedures. And then say I decide to sell off these notes to another investor, and all of a sudden this new investor has a whole other series of rules and regulations that it lives by, procedures and policies, and all of a sudden the person's asking for a modification, and they look at, oh, that fits with what we want, we'll do this. It's kind of very strange. It's a shadow world going on out there that you can't really see behind the scenes, because there's no true facts, no hard cemented rules of decisions, except when you're dealing with companies like Fannie Mae, or one of the many different organizations that have taken over a lot of these loans. And then at which point in time they have rules and regulations, and you pretty much know what's going to happen in the process. And then they scare you by having a different investor, and they're not part of the general pool, and they also have that file. So it's exciting to try to get people loan mods, because I really like to see people just stay in their homes. But often or not, the best way to do it is to do a short sale, because you know, when you do a short sale, you can get the deficiency waived. Because as you're paying off less than is owed, it's no longer a foreclosure. That'll get dismissed. Your credit will not be hurt as badly in the short run, and in the long run, it'll be faster to get your credit back. And at the same time, you know, you're getting closure, because you're doing a sale. You know the date you're moving out. You pack it up, you clean it up, and you move out calmly, versus stressing. So many people are stressing out there.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of stress right now in the world.
You know, I would know it from the newspapers and the TV stations. They seem to think it's all going well.
Oh yeah, they're so positive all the time.
Well, they weren't so positive today. Did you hear that they're complaining that the executive branch, i.e. the presidency, decided to do something without following the law? Does that shock you?
You know, I have to say it doesn't.
Oh my God, I'm shocked. I am shocked. I'm the people's advocate, and I think I'm kind of, you know, somewhat jaded, but I'm shocked.
Yeah, I mean, I think the end result of the situation is good. You know, there's a soldier who's home and hopefully back with his family soon, and I think that's good. But you know,
You ever done guard duty?
No. No,
I can tell you that I've often wanted, in the middle of my guard duty, just to go wander off on a wanderlust. I really did. Sometimes the wanderlust was there when I was holding the carbine. It was a nice, heavy, old gun. Made you feel like you were holding something of substance. But I still would have been putting it down, and I would have loved to take a wanderlust back to my cot and go to sleep. So, I mean, I understand if he decided to wander off. I can understand that. It's naughty behavior, though, don't you think?
I think the military views it like that for sure.
I understand that they don't look kindly on people that kind of like decide that they're off duty when they're on duty. I think that's not one of the rules, is it?
No, I don't think it is.
We live by rules, don't you and I?
I try to.
The People's Advocates rules. You have the People's Advocates. Yeah, that's right. Let me ask you a tiny question. Have you heard anything interesting coming out for just making it so that your job becomes easier, and they just modify the tax to single taxes and they make everything simple?
Well, nothing yet. We'll see what happens. I mean, everyone's always saying the tax code will be simplified, and you know, we'll have a single rate tax, and I don't see that happening in the near future.
Well, I heard that if the Republicans get in, that they're going to talk about changing the tax code. They're not going to change it, but they're going to talk about it.
The tax code is so complicated that I literally read it every day for a full year, and there's still sections that I haven't read yet. It's pretty substantial.
You know what I'm going to put on our website soon?
What's that?
I'm going to put on things like the Declaration of Independence. Have you read that recently?
Not recently, but
You might.
I used to have it memorized.
I know. I appreciate that.
Grade school days.
I have read it several times because I think it's one of the most powerful documents in American history. I'm originally from another country, right?
I know.
I'm a Canuck. You know what a Canuck is, right?
Hail Canada.
Yeah, that's right. The land of the free and the snowed in.
And the maple syrup.
Oh, there's lots of maple syrup up there. That's actually one of my favorite things coming from Canada's maple syrup.
It is.
I also like
delicious.
the maple leaf. They're very pretty. I've come from like the snow belt where the snow gets up to your belt. But foreclosures up there is much different.
Is it?
Yeah, it's much more administrative. But they've had some big problems up there with groups of people committing all sorts of different mortgage fraud. And there's mortgage fraud down here. A lot of it.
Really? There is?
Yeah, people
I hadn't heard.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you a question. In a short sale, if you sell it to your Uncle Ralph, because he's got a different last name, any chance the bank's going to find out about that?
Joe, that could be a problem because you are supposed to have what's known as an arm's length transaction.
I don't like him. He's got bad breath. Halitosis out the kazoo. Arm's length. He's more than arm's length. No? That's not the arm's length they're talking about.
No. It has to be an unrelated party.
And can they have an agreement with you to, sell it back to you later?
No, that won't work either, unfortunately. It has to truly be a sale to an unrelated party that they have no intention of selling it back to you in order for it to work.
Is there a problem if we do that behind your back and we don't tell you, Mr. Lender?
There sure is.
What happens? I'm sorry, Miss Lender.
I mean, the short sale could be canceled, I would imagine, and foreclosure proceedings reinstated.
And if they got you dead to rights?
You are in trouble.
Mortgage fraud.
Mm-hmm.
3 to 5
and then
years.
you're in a whole other...
That's when you don't need the People's Advocate, but you need the People's Advocate's friend, who's a nice criminal attorney. I have got several friends that do criminal law, and I think it's very interesting to see their view, because it appears that most of what they do is pleading out. Very few are going and fighting these big cases you see on TV. Very interesting on TV, but you don't see those kind of cases in most law firms. Most of them are just pleading out. There's the minimums. Have you been a bad boy before? The more bad boy you are, the more numbers you have. Hey, that reminds me. I understand that the executive branch is not concerned about breaking the law because they're not going to be brought up on charges. By the way, did anybody in the Switz company going to jail?
Yeah, I think there is one executive.
I bet you he worked in America.
He actually came to America a lot, but he didn't work in America.
But he was responsible, huh?
He was responsible.
Was he here so they've got handcuffs on him? How long are they going to send him away for 15 minutes?
I don't know.
He's
I guess
not a
we'll
movie
see.
star.
We'll see.
I bet you Justin Bieber will be in long enough to take him out the back door. Just think about all the screaming girls out front. You'd get all these juveniles stealing things just so they could be taken to jail. With the hopes.
The hopes that Justin Bieber will be there.
Justin Bieber will be there.
With his scissor.
Yeah. So, mortgage fraud.
Not a good thing. It's definitely going to get someone in trouble.
In my experience so far, a couple of times I get this really cold, almost unfriendly letter that says that we are rejecting your short sale application and you may not submit another. And initially I was like, wow, what happened? And then I would ask the client a little bit, and I would find out that there was something wrong with the buyer.
Uh-oh.
Often it wasn't an arm's length transaction. I haven't heard of anybody being arrested. And it seems like it means you get arrested when you do it too many times. I think that they let you slide it to a certain extent if you're a bad boy once. But I think that all the mortgage fraud cases usually show the person's been naughty several times and enough's enough, and it's time for you to get trouble. So I can come see you for taxes.
That's right.
And if I got money hidden overseas and I want to bring it back and not have my hand slapped, I can come to you.
Well, they're going to slap your hand either way, but it'll be less of a slap.
But you're going to organize it so it's a quiet, special slap.
That's right.
One that I can digest. Will they make payment plans with me, or that one of those situations they just want it all?
The IRS will always make payment plans, luckily, because these fines can be pretty steep. Luckily, they will do installment plans or even an offer in compromise where they'll reduce the amount that you owe.
Based upon my reality?
Mm-hmm, that's right.
Wow.
Yeah, they'll look at, hey, what can this guy or gal actually pay us? And maybe they had a lot of money 5 years ago, but now that the real estate market's crashed, they don't have a whole lot anymore. So what can they pay us?
And the truth of the matter is because I was a naughty boy, and this is considered tax evasion or tax fraud,
that's right,
or tax naughtiness, I'm not going to be able to take this to bankruptcy, am I? Because I didn't file it properly on my tax returns.
That's right. You have to have everything properly done for bankruptcy, and if you don't, you're going to miss that boat.
But if I only did this for a few years and I amended my last 3 years of tax returns, then I might be in better shape.
If it was evasion, no.
It's not really evasion. I just didn't realize I had to pay on money that was sitting overseas. I wasn't touching
unfortunately,
it.
there is a reporting obligation each year beyond filing your tax return. You actually have to report the offshore accounts.
Do I have to give them the account number and the address?
All the information.
Ouch.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this has been a rule for a while now.
It has. The IRS has actually had a program in place that you've not only a program, but a rule that you've had to report these offshore accounts, but also a program where you could come forward.
How long has it been required to report that bank account sitting offshore in the Bahamas?
A long time.
Okay. And so the longer you've had it overseas, the more harmful it's going to be for you.
Generally, the IRS will look at the past 8 years. So that's the good news. If you've had an offshore account in Switzerland.
Because if Grandpa gave me that account and I just left it alone.
Doesn't matter. You still have to report it. You have to report the balance, not the income.
Now, what if I have an offshore...
Well, you have to report the income as well and pay taxes, but you always have to report the balance.
So if I have an offshore international business corporation and it has an account, its account isn't mine, but I own the international business corporation through an American corporation, do I still have to declare those accounts sitting offshore because they're not mine per se, they're corporations?
I'm going to give the favorite lawyer answer of all.
Oh, scared me already.
It depends.
Oh, are you talking about those undergarments that you let it go poopy in?
I'm not talking about those. But you might need those if you see the penalties for some of these accounts.
I shouldn't laugh because it can be very scary. But, it's better to laugh than to cry, right?
That's right, that's right.
I don't know. I think a good cry couldn't hurt anybody. Alrighty, so listen, let's talk a little bit about bankruptcy today.
Sounds good.
You've heard of Chapter 7?
I have.
Do you know what its nickname is?
What's that?
Liquidation.
Oh.
It sounds nice, except when it's you that's being liquidated.
Yeah.
You have a very outdated exemptions here in Florida, and they're getting more and more aggressive at looking at the value of your personal assets when the trustees are trying to liquidate you. Mm. And, $1,000, would that cover your shoes?
These, yes.
Oh, and now I'm talking about the one. I mean, your set of shoes that you have. We put them all together in a pile and wanted to sell them secondhand on the internet. Not for the guys with foot fetishes, but those that are actually trying to buy shoes to wear. They'd be worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
$1,000 personal property exemption.
Mm. So what does that mean? What does that mean for someone?
That means that if you come into your house and you look at your personal property, you look at your cars, you look at your jewelry, you look at your watches, you look at your dog, that's included. You look at everything, and you have to come up with a price tag.
That would be a problem for me. My dog was
priceless.
Probably about $1,000. So there you go. That's
right,
it right there.
And now it's trained, right? It listens to you all the time.
Oh no.
Sit, stay, roll over.
I listen to him.
Yeah, there you go. Who walks who, right? So all these things have to be added up together, and you're entitled to $1,000. Now, I've always thought that a person's property, if you buy it and it's more than a few years old and it's not an antique or a collector's item, it's pretty much worth what somebody's willing to pay for it. almost like Goodwill prices, But they're now looking at more of a retail price or replacement cost. So all of a sudden, that $1,000 doesn't really cover very much.
Wow.
Especially if you're a collector of name brand purses. Not that you have anything with a name on it. The reality is that it can add up to very little of your assets.
Wow.
And then you're given a $1,000 exemption on a car. Now, let me ask you right now, I know that you have higher standards than the average girl, but just the same, working yourself as a working class kind of kid, where can you get a car that's drivable for $1,000 that you're not going to have an on-side mechanic waiting for you?
That would be, I would say, nearly impossible, if not impossible.
I mean, a decent car that nobody should really want that runs $3,000 to $5,000.
Yeah.
And if you come into anybody's house and you look at what their value of their property, and you're not looking at Goodwill prices, you're looking at replacement cost. That's $2,000 or $3,000 of personal items.
Yeah.
So, I understand that they've changed the way they fund the bankruptcy court, and now trustees have to work harder to get more money from the debtors so that they can have a budget.
Wow.
So that's kind of the agenda here in the bankruptcy court. This fresh start is a little bit harder to get. You know why I don't like I like no asset distributions. That's when nobody has any assets to give up to the creditors. And the reason why I like it is because if the client screwed up a little bit and they didn't give me somebody's name, and it's a no asset distribution, they're discharged anyways.
That's interesting.
But if I distribute assets from the estate to the trustee to pay the creditors, and one of the creditors is not mentioned, then you're going to find that person having a problem because the creditor is not discharged. Therefore, they can still come after you for the debt, and it requires you to reopen the case. It gets very complicated in bankruptcy. You know why I don't like 13s, don't you?
Why is that?
Well, they call it the payment plan program because they put together a payment plan based upon your disposable income, and they take all of your disposable income. They have a set number. They say, okay, there's a family of 4. You're supposed to have these expenses. Very unrealistic numbers, but hey, I appreciate IRS making the effort to come up with these numbers because without them we wouldn't have them. So at least we have the numbers, despite the fact that I think that they need to be adjusted far higher up. But what happens is that anything above that's considered disposable income. The plan is going to be based upon using that disposable income to pay off the creditors. It'll be done in either 3 years or 5 years. And if you start to make more money because you've got your act together or things change for you, they're going to want you to increase that disposable income payment based upon your increase in the disposable income. So you're kind of an indentured servant. Do you know what you know where indentured servitude came from?
Where's that?
The whole thing that this was supposed to stop, this fresh start, this bankruptcy code, was set in motion because they wanted to stop the debtor prisons of Europe. They said, no more debtor prisons in America. Look at the bright side.
Interesting.
You would basically go to work or try to find work during the day, and then you'd come back to the debtor prison at night, or the debtor prison would rent you out for services, and you'd come back until the debt was paid. And then back then, some of the kids would be stuck underneath that, and they'd take the kids to the prison, and they'd also be rented out.
That's too bad.
Yeah. So they sent them over here to the New World, America, and they sold them into indentured servitude. This kind of predates the slavery concept because slaves weren't really popular initially. What it was emptying out the debtor prisons of Europe and selling them off in the colonies. And people could work for 3 to 5, 9 years to pay off their debts here in the New World, and then after that they'd be free of their debt and they'd be released from their servitude. And once again, they'd begin the American dream. The American dream where the executive office of the United States can break the law with impunity. I said that, didn't I? That's true. But if you are a taxpayer who did not pay enough of his taxes and didn't tell Uncle Sam the things that he wanted to know, you're going to have terms, especially now that they're going to give up all the names.
That's right.
There are still some safe havens out there that aren't under the scrutiny just yet, right?
There's some. But
Aruba.
But those might be coming out pretty soon too. We'll see.
We'll
see what happens.
I know the Bahamas has long since given it up. And it's going to be very interesting when the haves have to show the have-nots. This sounds like class warfare.
I mean, I'm sure some people see it that way.
I think that if I have my little Matchbox Jaguar, I'm allowed to hide it and keep it. Okay? I don't care how much you value it for.
I mean, there are a lot of people, though, who legitimately did not know that they had to report certain accounts. You know, you have someone who maybe inherited an account from their grandmother in another country, and they pay taxes on any income in that country, and their accountant never said, hey, do you have any foreign accounts, you know, in X country? So they never knew. And unfortunately, they're getting dinged.
You find that most people that are making less than $2 million aren't generally having a problem with their taxes. They're able to kind of work that out with their accountant. But it's once you start having a business making $2 or $5 or $6 million, it's really good to have a tax strategy, don't you think?
It really is. You need to have a business plan and a tax plan in place before, if possible, you start operations, because that's really the best way to reduce your tax liability and make sure that you're tax compliant, which is really important.
Because?
Well, you don't want the IRS or the Florida Department of Revenue coming after you. That's no fun when you're trying to run your business.
The Florida Department of Revenue?
That's right.
I should be frightened of them too?
Yeah, of course. They basically do what the IRS does, just on a state level, and they'll come after you as well.
How can they come after you? Can actually knock on my door and say, we want you?
Yeah, the DOR, as they're called, can actually institute audits against Florida taxpayers.
Daughters of the Republic?
No. But they're up in Tallahassee, and they will get you, and not just in Florida. They have offices all over the country.
Wow. And what is it they're looking for?
They're looking for mostly corporate income taxpayers who are not paying the appropriate taxes. You know, you have sales tax, you have corporate income tax.
There's some transactional taxes, right?
That's right. If you have activities in Florida, you have business activities in Florida, you most likely owe some sort of corporate tax.
I know
unless you fall under the exemption.
Do you know any particular exemptions that might be personally related to you?
Personally or for businesses?
Would you know any exemption that relates to you specifically? That's right. Lawyers don't pay sales tax on services.
That's right. Services are not subject to sales tax.
Really?
That's right.
What if it's a service that includes a product?
Then it might be, well, bifurcated or divided between the sales and the product.
So that's one of those things you really should think about.
That's
you
right.
should really, if you don't know what you're doing, you really should go contact somebody who knows what they're doing with taxes.
You should, and you should have a good business plan in place. And if you think you might have an issue with the department, sometimes it's better to come forward and disclose your activities before you get dinged with an audit.
But I should expose myself to you, right?
Well, that might be illegal in some states.
Oh, well, I was really talking about exposing my coming clean to you first and let you take me to the slaughter, shall we say?
Yes, always talk to your tax attorney first. Go to someone who knows what they're doing and who's versed in the tax law, and talk to them. And before you talk to anyone else, don't go to the IRS, don't go to the DOR without first having a plan in place with your attorney.
Now, you're a wonderful attorney, but you're not the only one out there, right?
No, there's many qualified tax attorneys, corporate attorneys, business attorneys, and as long as you get a good one, just make sure you have someone who knows what they're
How
doing.
do I know I got a good attorney? Because he's charging me a lot of money?
That's right. No, make sure you get a good referral. You know, talk to other business owners who have had issues similar to you, and just make sure you're working with someone who knows their stuff.
Now, if I call the guy on the phone and it's Tuesday and I don't hear back from him until Monday, is that a good attorney?
Yeah, I mean, he might be very busy.
But he's making me wait 5 days to talk to me? You don't think an attorney should at least call me back and say, hey, how you doing? I don't have time for you?
It depends on the style. I personally would call the person back within, I would say, a day or two, especially if it's something urgent. But every attorney's different. Everyone deals with things differently.
And you're prepared to take an urgent call?
That's right. We take a lot of urgent calls, especially in the tax world.
So if somebody wanted to call us today with an urgent question on 888-565-1470, they can call us at 888-565-1470. They can Facebook Any questions that they have, they can also tweet us, and they can also look at us at live stream at Wwnn.com. And if they find themselves in need of a good free consultation, they can give you or I a call at 954-320-6940. This is the People's Advocate Hour, and we're here for the people to call in or to listen to us banter on. And let's go ahead for a short break here. This is the People's Advocate Hour on WNN1470.com. Give us a call in at 888-565-1470.
Are you losing sleep at night due to your debt situation? Call attorney Joseph Bryan today to sit down for a free consultation to discuss your rights. The People's Advocate is the trade name of the Bryan Law Group. The People's Advocate provides services to individuals and small businesses in bankruptcy, foreclosure, short sales, loan modifications, debt relief, consumer law, and estate planning in the South Florida area. Your initial consultation is free of charge. Proudly serving the South Florida community for over 21 years, Attorney Joseph Bryan will listen to your concerns and discuss options available to you. For more information, please call the People's Advocate at 888-828-9008. That's 888-828-9008. You are listening to the People's Advocate Hour with South Florida Attorney Joseph Bryan. He keeps you informed about your rights when it comes to bankruptcy or foreclosure and wants you to be part of his show. Call 888-565-1470 and help him help you get informed. Now, back to our show.
Well, thank you for coming back to the People's Advocate Hour. I'll pay you later. If you have any questions, give us a call at 888-565-1470. Lauren and Joe are here to answer your questions. We're the People's Advocate. We're here to answer your questions, to deal with your issues. And, one of the things that people are dealing with are debt issues. And have you ever dealt with one of those debt consolidation companies at all?
I have.
What is your feeling on those?
They are usually not a good idea.
That's putting it mildly. You have on your evasive shoes today. Can I see them?
There they are.
There they are. That's right. We might get a comment, by the way. Nice shoes. I think mine are nicer, but that's okay. Back to you. No, listen, a lot of those debt companies, what they'll do is they'll take payments up front from you. They won't start working on your problem until you paid a third of the money upon which they're going to be collecting from. They pocket a lot of the money. They don't work on you. You can find yourself in a lawsuit, a credit card lawsuit, long before they've even communicated with the credit card company to resolve the issue. I'm not a great lover of them, personally. I think that most people can go to nolo.com. It's a self-help webpage called nolo.com. I actually think I have my name somewhere in their little database. And the nice thing about them, they have a lot of self-help legal books, which are helpful because sometimes you need knowledge.
Absolutely.
And what is knowledge?
It's power.
Power to help yourself get out from under situations. And nolo.com has books on how to correct your credit. I've actually bought several of their books because I thought that they had some very interesting stuff, and I like to keep them available. Sometimes clients want to look at them and peruse through them. But, say I had my car repossessed 7 years ago. Should it be on my credit? No.
No.
Because it's a debt I haven't paid for more than 5 years. It's a written debt, right? I signed a contract. So a contract is enforceable for up to 5 years. So if you haven't paid on a contract for 5 years, it's uncollectible. If I haven't paid on a promissory note for 5 years, it's uncollectible. So if a case is from 2009 and it gets dismissed, can they bring the lawsuit again?
No.
Because it's uncollectible.
That's right.
Some of those cases are actually happening around me right now. I'm watching some of them where the banks are being dismissed.
It's exciting.
It is exciting when you know that the person now has a loan that is uncollectible. Now, they can run to do a quiet title action if the 5 years has passed, or they can just sit back and relax, pay their taxes, insure the property, fix it up, and when they're ready to when they're ready to start thinking about selling, that's when they can do the quiet title action, because it only takes anywhere between 120 and 180 days. 6 months usually a quiet title action is over, even if there's a fight, where somebody's claiming that you don't have a right to quiet the title. And what that does is it wipes out the mortgage that's attached to the property, because the note's uncollectible, but the mortgage is still on the property because that's that security interest that's in the filing, and you can't just get rid of it. Now, loan modifications, short sales, what else can we do in a foreclosure except defend it? Sometimes there's short pay options, but generally not in residential, only in commercial, where they'll take less than is owed. And it seems so foolish, considering they're willing to short sell it for a certain number. Why shouldn't they be willing to satisfy it for less than is owed? But it really seems to not be an option yet. But I've been really pushing for this option, and I'm hoping that someday somebody will push it to the rest of us and we'll get it.
It would be great. That'd help a lot of folks.
You know what I pushed for years and I got finally?
What's that?
No dual track. I felt if you're going to work with me to try to do a modification for my client, you shouldn't be bringing the case forward in foreclosure. I just thought it was really rude.
Yeah, I agree.
It's almost like, are you trying to work with me or aren't you? I mean, why should you go on dual track? Why should you go forward towards a foreclosure and a sale date when you're working with me? If you're working with me, you should be waiting. And that wasn't the case since 2008 until January of this year, when they promulgated these new rules. And now, if they do dual track and they continue a case, they break the law. Banks don't like to break the law.
So what does the new law say?
That if they are in the midst of a completed package for a loss mitigation, which could be many different things, including things that the bank has included that we don't, but typically that's a loan modification, a short sale, or some sort of other program that's in the bank, and the package is complete and it's with them, they're not allowed to go to a final judgment. They're not allowed to go and proceed further with the case until after the program is finished. And in some cases, they're limited to 30 days to get a result.
Wow.
I have one case up in, I'm almost tempted not to say it, but it's somewhere near Sebring, because everybody knows where Sebring is. And we've been fighting with the bank for going on 5 years. But I've been in modification process for him, 2 of it. Actually, almost 2.5 years right now, we've been pushing through a modification. They keep on asking us to update information, and then they ask us questions because they don't understand finance. Because, the people that are doing this, they're not like auditors, they're not like, they're not talented financial analysts. So they don't know what to do with things. Like, for instance, you're a self-employed person, forget about it. They don't know how to interpret your paperwork. It's got to fit a certain thing, or they have real difficulties. Self-employed people are the ones that have the hardest time getting modifications. However, during the shenanigans, it was the easiest kind to get, I have a business, I'm making income, or let me give you a loan, sir.
Of course.
Now it's a difficult time. So modifications are very interesting. I've watched the transition from where all these modifications were possible and none of them were happening, to seeing a lot more of them go through. So that's pretty cool. But there aren't a lot of options when you're in foreclosure. And remember something here. You did buy the house.
That's right.
You did sign the mortgage.
Yeah, the person did.
Yeah, and you initialed the bottom of every page, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Very serious about that. Let me ask you a question. You and I work together. You decide not to get married to your beau and just live together. And you decide to buy a house together. Do you think you should also have a property settlement agreement to deal with that issue?
Absolutely. I definitely think that any two people, especially if you're not married, you definitely need to have something in writing that states, if this doesn't work out, here's what we're going to do
about it.
Exactly.
Because what ends up happening is one person stays in the other house and the other one leaves.
Mm-hmm.
Then they can't come back.
Nope.
You can't get the guy out of the house.
Nope.
You heard me skip that word, right? Uh-huh. And you can't get him out of the house, so he's there. He doesn't give you any money for it.
That's right.
And in the past couple of years, lots of people have experienced boyfriends that didn't pay the mortgage because it was upside down and they just wanted to live there for free.
Absolutely.
What happens to you?
Well, the person who's not in the house, well, both of them are their credit's going to be affected.
Hurt, right?
Very hurt.
Is that something that you would take personal?
Of course.
But it's just credit.
Credit is everything, though.
Oh my goodness!
You want to buy a car?
So your whole life can get destroyed by a bad decision with the wrong guy or wrong girl.
That's right.
Wrong girl. But it's better to have something in writing.
It is, always.
And that's kind of like something that you would do. You do kind of like estate planning type stuff. You do, that would be kind of something that kind of like a property settlement agreement. That kind of would follow under sort of like an asset plan.
Absolutely. Call it a cohabitation agreement sometimes.
You do? Mm-hmm. Could you say that again? That sounded really naughty.
Cohabitation agreement.
I think I should call it the shack up agreement.
That's what my mom would call it, I'm sure.
She's not so in favor of shack up agreements, I don't think. No, what do you call it? Shack up agreements? Okay. What do you call those again?
Cohabitation agreement.
Okay. I've heard them called partnership agreements too.
That could work as well.
But the reality is that if you're going to buy a property, you're going to live it with somebody that's not your partner and they're not your husband, you should have something in writing.
That's right.
It's the same thing with corporations. You get these two people to get together, and one guy's working so hard, and the other guy put a little bit of money in, and then the other one gets more interested in making money somewhere else, and the next thing you know, you got one person running the business, and the other person saying, well, I own half of it.
That's right.
If there's no agreement, can I shove you out?
It's going to be a lot more difficult.
That's right. Agreements are really important. When it comes down to making a decision, when it comes down to business, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate.
That's true.
So how do you make the proper decision when you're going to put together this kind of transaction? What do? You talk to a lawyer?
You talk to a lawyer, and you basically sit down and say, here's our goal, here's what we want to accomplish. However, if X happens, here's what we're going to do. If Y happens, here's what we're going to do, and you put it all in writing.
Now, that an intelligent attorney who's been around long enough kind of recognizes the nightmares that are coming your way just because you're moving in together, right?
Absolutely, and it's when you become more of a counselor.
Yeah.
It's more than just an attorney-client relationship. You're counseling this person.
But I loved him, and love will set us free.
Well, unfortunately,
you're laughing at me. You're the one that's getting married.
That's true. That's true.
Good grief! She's laughing, and love sets me free, and she's laughing. Come on, you're still pre-honeymoon stage. You shouldn't laugh at me like that. It's terrible. But you've been around long enough to know the truth, right?
Yeah, and I've seen some things, and I've seen people go through hard times, and if you would have just put a little forethought into it and planned, could have been a lot easier.
So you can actually do a premarital agreement.
Absolutely.
What do you call those things? Premarital agreements?
Prenuptial agreement.
Oh, prenuptials. Yeah. The nuptials sound fun, though. But it's before the prenuptials.
That's right.
The Jews do a different thing. We do the ketubah.
Oh.
You know what the ketubah is?
I don't.
It sounds fun, though, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah, it's when you sit down and you draw up a contract between you and your future husband. And you set forth the rules and regulations as you would set forth in a contract. It's a contract of marriage. And you kind of say, here's what I expect of you, and here's what I expect of you, and if this doesn't work out, then this is how it gets handled. And you sign off on the dotted line. It's kind of a straightforward, mister, this is what you're going to have to do to keep me around. It's called the ketubah.
Oh, very interesting.
Yes, and some families actually hang it in their house. In a place that you get to see every day. I prefer to put up a sign that says, I'm sorry, honey, you're right, I'm wrong. And
That's smart. That's smart.
So, a matter of fact, right above the bathroom door as I'm leaving, I can see it, I can remind myself, get it down hard. I guess that's a married joke, but
I'm sure we have a lot of married listeners.
I hope so.
Who are laughing in their car right now.
I hope they're happily married. Happily married. Happily married. Because one of the things that they should be aware of is that the more children you begat in that loving relationship, the more likely you're going to do what? No, not pull your hair out of the head. What's the most likely thing you're going to do if you have, say, the more kids you have?
Pay for college.
Oh, yes. That means more expenses, right?
That's right.
According to the statistics, is the more kids you have, the more likely, statistically speaking, you're going to file for bankruptcy.
Oh.
It's good to know that you procreate these children so they can grow up and say, I hate you. You're destroying my life. Just as they begin going to college, you all of a sudden realize, well, I'm going to be free at last, and then you see the cost of college and you realize that you've been liquidated. And I'm not talking Chapter 7.
And then they say they want to go to law school.
Yeah, but that's when you say, go get your money. Anyways, all right, well, listen, it's been a pleasure having you here today. This is the People's Advocate Hour. I'm here with Lawrence Malis. My name's Attorney Joseph Bryan. We're the People's Advocate. Our phone number is 954-320-6940. If you want to give us a call, set up an appointment, we'd love to speak with you. We give free consultations. Our offices are conveniently located east of I-95 on Hollywood Boulevard, or nearabouts. And once again, if you'd like to get some information from us, feel free to send messages through the Facebook page or the Twitter. We'll answer them in the next show. And we thank you, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
You have been listening to the People's Advocate Hour with Attorney Joseph Bryan. Join Attorney Joseph Bryan next week on the People's Advocate as you need to know your rights when it comes to bankruptcy or foreclosure. You can also contact our office at 954-889-7443 for a free consultation. The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.